Part 16 of exposing a Pisces energy trying to destiny swap with me, entirely at my expense, entirely against my consent. They've been intentionally, utmost maliciously doing all the things I'm exposing them for, while intentionally, utmost maliciously, egregiously misrepresenting me as doing it all to them. This time, it was another part 2 of 2. Again, the first part didn't come up in my energy. So yet another case of them planning something without my energy, while knowing they plan and need to egregiously exploit my energy to ever even have any real chance at successfully executing whatever it is. 1010 is significant to the reading. It is not and has never been particularly significant to me personally, though. I found it especially strange as well that there was a date provided. October 0? So a day that shouldn't ever have existed? Perhaps as a result of somehow egregiously exploiting something related to September? My guess is they intended for me to be permanently silenced one way or another by the end of September. So it's already been nearly 2 weeks now that I'm still speaking up after they expected or needed me to be dead. You could have really felt abandoned in this connection. So they've been intentionally, almost maliciously, causing chaos and confusion around if I ever felt extremely abandoned in the connection. Because they extremely, desperately, absolutely needed people to think it's even possible that I didn't feel extremely abandoned for literally the entire connection, entirely regardless of whether or not we were within any kind of close physical proximity to each other. And they definitely knew all along that I in reality felt extremely abandoned by them the entire time I've ever been connected to them at all. And I feel like that could be why you're having to make a decision on whether or not you take this person back in, okay? So they've been extremely egregiously exploiting that perpetual abandoning of me in order to intentionally, utmost maliciously cause chaos and confusion around if there's even actually any true need for me to make any kind of decision related to whether or not I'll ever allow them back in my life at all. While they've in reality fully known all along that I do not at all have any kind of such a need, and any falsification that such a need exists is exclusively and increasingly extremely detrimental to every aspect of my existence. And I do not at all want, need, and or deserve to be subjected to it. And they've been desperately dependent on others' validation for if it makes any real sense for them to even try pretending like they actually have some decision to make on whether or not they're going to let me back in their life. Like they really left you out. They walked away and went fucking cold on you. They took their mask off. You saw who they really were, okay? You saw the depth, you saw the awareness here, the importance of your value in this. So they've been extremely desperate to present me ever walking away from them as some kind of intentional, utmost malicious, always wanting to leave them out of something. And as if it's me somehow taking some mask off and revealing who I supposedly really am, which they in reality knew fully all along is not at all the case, and is in reality them trying to project their worst attributes onto me for the worst possible reasons. To try to hide it, they've been desperately dependent on others' validation, for if it seems reasonable that me ever walking away from them suddenly shows them that I am who they've been portraying me to others as being secretly all along. And they've been trying extremely hard to hide from me the depth and importance of my value in their lives and what kind of awareness it shows of my own greatness to truly be able to and fully consciously choose to permanently, absolutely, unconditionally walk away from them completely and cut them out of my life without any even possibility of them ever coming back in how they've in reality been all along ever again. You guys are twin flames. You guys are mirroring each other. There's shared feelings here, reflecting of each other. So they've been extremely desperate and have been trying extremely hard to hide that we are not at all twin flames, nor are we at all mirroring each other, nor do we share feelings or reflect each other at all in the kind of manner they've been portraying. They're missing the intimacy. So are you. You guys really bonded that way. It was sensual. You guys really had a sexual connection. So they've extremely egregiously misrepresented me as ever missing intimacy with them at all, as well as them towards me. They've been trying to hide that we never bonded like that. And they've been trying extremely hard to hide that they fully knew all along that I'd be extremely disgusted for them to so egregiously misrepresent the significance of any kind of intimacy and or sexuality in our connection in order to exploit me so egregiously, endlessly. And I feel like this person confided in you and they've had some fucking realizations, like epiphanies, like, what the fuck did I do? What did I do? So they've been egregiously misrepresenting me as ever at all confiding in them out of some kind of realization that I messed up our connection somehow. And possibly also that they've ever at all actually confided in me about anything as some kind of realization that they messed up our connection somehow. They're having an understanding now of what the fuck they've done since they've gone through this awakening. They realized that they were shallow, okay? They were hollow, they were empty, they were boring. So they've been egregiously misrepresenting things as if I'd suddenly get some understanding of how horribly I've treated them after I get some kind of awakening or become more spiritually inclined than they've previously purported me to be. And to hide it, they've been desperately dependent on others' validation for if it seems like I'd realize I've been shallow, while they in reality fully knew all along that I'm very much not some shallow, hollow, empty, boring, worthless loser. Their pride and ego got in the way, and their fucking arrogance, okay? And their stubbornness. They didn't want to budge for you, okay? So they've been desperately dependent on others' validation for if it seems to make any sense that my pride, ego, general arrogance, and some kind of unhealthy stubbornness somehow got in the way of whatever connection we've had. Because they've been extremely desperate to hide that they were actually messing up the connection because of them possessing those qualities. And they've been extremely desperate to hide it by being desperately dependent on others' validation for if it seems like I've been excessively rigid towards them. Because they've been extremely desperate to hide that they've in reality been excessively rigid towards me. You wanted this family, you wanted this like pregnancy, this everything with this person. And you kept an open heart in this. Despite being treated like shit, you kept an open heart. You were receptive to this, okay? So they haven't ever really wanted to be any kind of family with me whatsoever, and they especially certainly didn't want to ever engage in any kind of serious long-term commitment with me whatsoever, and they never really even had an open heart to any of it to begin with anyways. But they've been extremely desperate to make it seem like the complete opposite of those things is true, because they've wanted to make it look like I've always treated them like shit and was some kind of cold-hearted, massive jackass piece of shit to them. Because they've in reality always fully known they have in reality always been the extremely cold-hearted, massive jackass piece of shit to me. And to hide it, they've been desperately dependent on others' validation for if it seems like they've actually been receptive to those things from me. You're having the epiphany now where you're like, I'm more vulnerable than this person is making me feel. So they've tried to take any moments where I should be the one actually having a meaningful epiphany about being more vulnerable to exploitation by them than they've made me feel like I am, and they've tried to make themselves look like they are actually the ones having such an epiphany. While in reality, they're not at all having such an epiphany, and they fully know such an epiphany is never happening for them. There was influences in this connection, okay? There was attachments. There was third-party blockages. This could have been peers. It could have been friends. So they've been desperately dependent on others' validation for if it seems like external influences, attachments, third-party blockages, and maybe even things like peers or friends have perhaps been the real problem, or at the very least a lot more influential in their behavior than any of those things have ever actually been. It made this person lose you because you're single now and you're withdrawn from this person. You've detached. So they've specifically, egregiously been desperately shifting blame onto basically everyone and everything else as the supposed reason I've actually been single my whole life. And they've tried to blame all those other things even harder the more withdrawn and detached I've been from them, even though they fully knew all along that those other things aren't as significant as they've been trying to portray them to be, if at all, to my pulling back from them. They're lonely, and you're just sitting over there in your solitary. You're just like, whatever, I like it better this way. So anytime it seriously seemed to them like I even might have even started to even really get close to actually not being in a place in life extremely heavily conducive to the most damaging perpetual feelings of loneliness, they'd ramp up their playing victim as if they've been left to be in solitary themselves because of something that's somehow my fault, despite them in reality fully knowing that whatever left them in that state is not at all actually my fault. And they've been extremely desperate to make it seem like they don't really care, and as if they actually even like it better like that, because they've in reality fully known that I'd rather be even extremely isolated than submit to whatever extremely falsified connection they've been trying to intentionally, almost maliciously, forever trap me into having with them. I feel like you really felt broken after this connection. It was like heartbreak. You were shattered here, destroyed. So they've been egregiously falsifying that they somehow felt broken or some kind of shattering heartbreak that destroyed them whenever they portrayed me as abandoning them, while in reality fully knowing that they actually felt better than ever with me out of their life, and that they were hoping and trying to trap me in a situation where I'm the one that felt so devastated from losing having them in my life. Even if it made absolutely no real sense whatsoever for me to feel like that, and absolutely no real sense for them to believe I ever really would. This person fucked you up. They gave you like fantasies. They gave you fantasies, daydreams, and like it was all imagination. None of it was real. It was like they were fantasizing something that wasn't even fucking real. So any interaction I ever actually had with them was a complete facade. They were being extremely fake all the time to me. They've been trying so hard to pretend that I fucked them up because they've been extremely desperate to hide how they fully, knowingly, and intentionally, almost maliciously, wanted to completely fuck me up to the point I'd end up with my life completely destroyed because of them. You gave yourself clarity. You gave yourself truth. You gave yourself honesty. And now your intentions, you set yourself with good intentions. But this person is coming forward with an apology. So the more they stripped me of clarity in my life, the more they hid the truth of everything from me, the less honest they were to me and everyone else about who they really are, the worse their intentions towards me got. And they fully knew it all along. And they'd constantly use hiding that they fully knew that I definitely am not coming forward towards them with any kind of apology as something to make themselves seem like they ever had any actually good intentions towards me. They're returning because they want your forgiveness. They want you to say, they want to say that they're sorry because they see you now as this divine feminine, and you're the yin to the yang. Okay? So they've been egregiously misrepresenting anything that I do as if it's some kind of returning to them because I supposedly want their forgiveness, while they in reality fully know that's completely false and actually couldn't be further from the truth. They've been intentionally, almost maliciously, trying to confuse me, and maybe also others, on if I should want to myself apologize to them or if I should want them to apologize to me. Because they in reality fully know that whatever connection they've been trying to trap me in couldn't be further from divine in any sense. And to hide it, they've been desperately dependent on others' validation for if it seems at all reasonable to believe that I'd ever actually see my connection with them as divine somehow. And overall, fundamentally, in order to try to achieve everything they've ever been trying to put me through, they've been trying extremely, unbelievably hard to egregiously misrepresent me as if me identifying as transgender somehow is indicative that I secretly deep down feel like I'm incomplete on my own or is somehow lacking in integrity or some sense of wholeness in a manner that I in reality do not, have never, and will never at all identify with, and they've in reality fully always known that.